Well, hey there, friends. Welcome back to Let's Be Honest with John Kuhn. It is officially back to school season. And for today's episode, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to talk specifically to one special group of people. And that group of people is aspiring educational administrators, people who are looking ahead in their career thinking, maybe I want to be a campus leader. Maybe someday I want to be a district leader, especially as they think about this upcoming school year and what opportunities are before them to grow into educational leadership. First of all, I want to take you back with me, those of you that are aspiring administrators, or maybe you don't even know yet that you are an aspiring administrator. You've toyed with the idea and you think, oh no, that's not me. I don't have the personality for it. I don't have the knowledge for it. I want to talk to you. I want to take you back with me to 1997, my first year as a public school teacher. I was a high school Spanish teacher in a very small school here in Texas. And I walked into my first teaching job and I met my principal. And she was, I think the word that I would use to describe my impression of her that year was intimidating. And it's kind of weird because she was not a tough talking person. She was not aggressive in any way. She was never mean. She was kind. But what she was in command of herself, of her campus. She knew her stuff. And for me coming in as a brand new teacher, just overwhelmed with all the stuff I didn't know, that was extremely intimidating. And I bring it up because I remember my feeling of working for her in that first year as a teacher was, and this, I thought this, I explicitly remember thinking this vividly. I could never do her job. I could never do her job. And not only did I think that over the course of my career, spanning back to 1997, I've heard lots of teachers say that. I've heard them say it out loud. I could never do your job. Um, I remember her referencing things like the Texas Education Code or the board policy. I just remember her being able to quote those things. And at the time, I didn't even know where those things were, right? And so it was just extremely impressive to me. And I thought, there's no way I'll ever attain that level of knowledge, but also that level of just like command of myself and of an entire campus of not only the kids but the professionals on staff. Um, I bring all that up because there are probably some of you aspiring administrators that feel that same way now, like you're not 100% sure that you're ready for a career, whether it's a campus administrator or a district administrator. And I just want to use this video kind of to reassure you that literally anybody can do it, right? Like, I mean, when you're looking at it from the outside in, it's an intimidating job, large, scope of responsibility. But when you get into it, it's just a job. And if you can teach and teach well, you can probably be a campus or district administrator. Now, you may not want to be. It may be that you love teaching, you want to be in a classroom with kids, and that is awesome. There are lots of people that's how they envision themselves spending a teaching career, and that's wonderful. We need those people. Not everyone needs to be a campus administrator, or district administrator, but we do need, not just in my state, but across the United States, we need skilled, capable campus and district administrators to fill the openings that always come open, but they're going to be coming open even more as folks my age, age out of the system and leave the system. So I want to talk to you from the other end of a career where I started as a teacher, I moved to assistant principal, then I moved to campus principal, and then I moved to superintendent. Very typical educational leadership pathway: teacher, AP, principal, superintendent. And I think most people who end up in the superintendency or in the principalship, they usually pass through those phases. Sometimes people will skip the AP, especially in smaller school districts. They'll go from teacher to principal, but that's a very typical pathway into leadership. And there are others who they go into the finance side and end up being a superintendent. So there are other ways to move into campus or district leadership, but that's pretty much the textbook way to do it. And the main point of today's video is it's not as scary as you think it is. I want you to understand that. Looking back at my time in each of these positions, they started out scary, just like my teaching job started out intimidating and scary, because you walk in and you don't know much. You don't know where things are located. You don't know where information is located. You don't even really know what all your responsibilities are and what people are going to expect from you. And you typically are probably the type of person who holds yourself to account. And so the day you walk into the job, you expect that you should be able to do the job fully. But the reality is, every job, including when you started teaching, it starts with training wheels. You have mentors, you have people you can lean on. You are not expected to know everything on day one. You get to do on the job training. In fact, that's the best kind of training. That's how you learn how to do these jobs. So going in and not knowing everything, that's how it's supposed to work. I know that's probably what is the scariest thing for you looking at it, because you don't exactly know what all you'll be expected to do. I remember before I got my first superintendent job, I called the superintendent who was leaving the job I was going to apply for, and I asked him a question. I said, "What does a superintendent even do?" I had been a high school principal for several years, and I knew what a high school principal did, but that's not the same thing as a superintendent. And his answer, I'll never forget. I said, "What exactly does a superintendent do?" And his answer was, "I don't really know." It was really funny. And then he kind of riffed on a few of the responsibilities, the main responsibilities that a superintendent has. But that has stuck with me because I've had that feeling so many times in my career. Every time I've changed jobs, I've walked into this unknown. Even between superintendent jobs, I went from a school of 300 and something kids to a school of 3,000 and something kids to a school district of 14,000 kids. And every one of those times, the same question occurred, which was, okay, well, how do you do the superintendent job in this situation? Because it's a different situation. They're all just jobs. No matter how much mystique you think they have, no matter how high and mighty you think your current superintendent is or your current campus principal is, they're just people that are getting up every day and going to work just like you do. And every one of them started in their role with that fear of the unknown and that, kind of desperation to, man, I've got to learn this. I've got to figure this out before everybody realizes I don't know what I'm doing. Like, that's universal. That's been a major part of my career, is just figuring it out as you go. So I want to reassure you that being in that position and not having all the answers yet, that's not unusual. It's not out of bounds. It is the norm. It's how, and the people who say they have it all together on day one, they're lying, right? That's not true. No one does. You have to have time to figure out where things are. You have to have time to figure out where the bodies are buried, what the norms are at the campus that you're going to be leading, what the norms are at the district that you're going to be leading, what the relationships are, who are the people you absolutely do not need to alienate, what are the traditions in your new school or your new town that you had better not offend, right? There's so many things you have to learn, and you get to, and everybody lets you. They understand that, right? Also, one of the great things about being a campus leader or a district leader is most people look at that job and they're like, yeah, I would never do that. So a lot of people give you a lot of grace because you're doing something that they would absolutely despise doing, or they think they would, right? So you you learn by doing. You get the job and you start to learn it, and then you realize this job, whatever it is, AP, principal, superintendent, you realize, just like the teaching job that you're probably doing right now if you're an aspiring campus or district administrator, this new job, the one you're aspiring toward, just like teaching, it has its challenges, but it also has its joys. It's not harder than the jobs you've done before. It's not harder than teaching or whatever other role you may have, counseling, instructional coach, whatever role you may have as you consider leaving that role going into administration. It's not harder than that. It's just hard in a different way. Um, and I want to say something too to those of you who may be watching who are not aspiring administrators. Maybe you're a first year teacher just getting into this career. I would encourage you not to discount administration in your future in this career. You may not know that you may not be an aspiring leader. You may not know that's something that you could do or want to do, and you may not want to do it. But I would say don't discount it out of hand. And certainly, I think the main point I'm trying to make in my video today is I've heard so many people very offhandedly disqualify themselves from the role because they don't think they're equipped or capable. And I want to tell you, as a former superintendent, former principal, I was also not capable. And I just jumped in, and you become capable. So don't disqualify yourself. Don't discount yourself. You may be fantastic at this job. You may be the best that ever did it, right? So I would encourage you to think about educational leader as a potential direction for your career. Again, not everybody needs to leave the classroom. We need great teachers who stay in that instructional role, but we also badly need whip smart campus leaders and whip smart district leaders who, this is important, will prioritize their students above everything else. The safety of their students, the learning of their students, the futures of their students, relationships with their students and their families. We build the future of our country, and that means we build human beings one at a time, right? And so that's who we need, people who love kids and understand the God-given mission of educating the kids of the United States of America. We need those leaders at our campuses and in our districts. And you might be that person, so go get that master's degree. Don't put it off. Start while you're young. Knock it out, right? It's 36 hours, something like that, to get that administration master's degree. Just go ahead and start working on it, right? And if you already have the master's and you're thinking about district leadership, get that superintendent certificate. I don't know what it is in other states, but I know in Texas, it's 15 hours of college, right? You may want to get your doctorate. You may not want to. You don't have to. A lot of superintendents don't have doctorate degrees, but start while you're young. Don't put it off. Those years are going to pass whether you're knocking out that degree or not. So you might as well be working on that degree. I know you may be busy. You may have extracurricular responsibilities in addition to your teaching responsibilities, home responsibilities, family responsibilities. Maybe you teach and drive a bus like I did, but I'm telling you, it is possible. You can do it. So don't discount yourself. Don't disqualify yourself. You know, we all know, those of us that are in education, there is a teacher shortage right now, right? Well, you know what that also means? There will be, if there already isn't, an AP shortage, and there will be a principal shortage, and there will be a superintendent shortage, because those professions come from the teaching profession. If we don't have enough teachers, that means we also don't have enough aspiring administrators. So, number one, that's job security. But number two, that is a big need for the health and well being of our society. We need campus and district leaders, right? So it's a great idea to be working on those degrees now, because I promise you those jobs are going to be out there. If you're committed to education and you are in it for the long haul, at least give campus and district administration some thought. Don't be intimidated. Above all, don't be intimidated. Your superintendent and your principal, they are just people, just like you. They may have a mystique. Some of us are very down to earth. We don't worry a whole lot about the mystique. But some of us are very, very much aware of the responsibility to carry ourselves a certain way as a superintendent, because we're kind of a public figure. Same thing with a campus principal. So some of us will wear jeans to work, jeans and boots in a small town as a superintendent. And some of us will wear a suit to work every day because of our perception of our responsibilities, right? But whether a superintendent or a campus principal carries themselves with that sense of mystique, that sense of kind of untouchable professionalism, don't let that fool you. They're just people doing their jobs, right? And that mystique is kind of part of the job. You, as a teacher, you know that you have to get your bluff in with your students, right? You have to do that early. Like they say, don't smile until Christmas. You know, if you want things to go well, you have to carry yourself not as their buddy, but as their teacher, as that authority figure. Well, the same thing is true of your principal, and the same thing is true of your superintendent. They have to carry a certain amount of mystique. They have to get their bluff in with you, the adults that work for them, so that you'll do what they say. So don't let that cause you to think that they are somehow a different kind of human being or a cut above or way smarter. I've known a lot of principals, I've known a lot of superintendents, myself included, and I promise you, they're not always the smartest person in the room, even if they try to portray themselves as that. And in fact, the best superintendents, the best principals surround themselves by people who are smarter than them, and they will admit that, right? But don't let that mystique fool you into thinking there's something different about them as compared to you. They're just like you. They've just been through some stuff. That's the difference, right? They've been through some hard stuff, right? And I know as a teacher you probably have as well. But they're just people, and even if they seem like they have it all together, I can tell you from the relationships I've had with tons of superintendents, tons of principals, of course, from my own knowledge, my own firsthand knowledge, that we don't always have it all together, right? We have just as many insecurities as you do. Every single day, we wake up with worries. Am I doing my job well? How do people perceive how I'm doing my job? How does my board see me? How does my community see me? Am I going to get fired? Are they going to renew my contract? Who have I alienated? Should I have said that? Was I too harsh? Was I too nice? Am I a pushover? All of those insecurities that stack up on you every day, just as a consequence of doing a job and taking a paycheck and knowing that you owe people your very best and worrying that what you gave wasn't good enough, that is common to the human condition, aside from sociopaths, right? Like that's how those of us who are normal feel all the time. And that includes campus and district leaders. Every single day we have worries and insecurities. And the difference maybe is that you see and are familiar with your own insecurities every day, and you don't see theirs because they don't show them. Well, that's part of the gig. You are not supposed to portray yourself as weak and scared if you are leading an army into battle, right? You have to project confidence. The famous saying that I know you've heard is when the campus leader gets a cold, everybody has a cough, or something like that. I think I butchered it, but it's okay. You get the point. Do these people know lots of stuff? Yeah, I mean, most of them, they're supposed to. But do you know how they learned it? They learned like 0.5% of what they know from the classes they took getting their master's degree or their superintendent certificate or their doctorate. They picked up some of it that way. And then they picked up like 0.0001% from the certification tests they had to take to get certified in their state. Just remember, when you take the test, pick the Mr. Rogers answer. You'll do fine. And they learned the rest, whatever the balance is, they learned by getting up every morning, drinking a cup of coffee, gritting their teeth, and marching into battle and learning it on the job. They learned not to step on rakes by stepping on lots of rakes. It's that old saying, how do you get experience? By messing up. So you learn not to mess up again. I butchered that one too, but you get the point. So what I'm telling you is do it. Go get that master's. And while you're working on that master's degree, make friends with your principal, make friends with your superintendent. I want to pause there because I know those of you that work in large school districts, that sounds funny. Make friends with your superintendent because your superintendent is far away in some other building and he's kind of untouchable or she's kind of untouchable. But you have to understand, in small school districts, that doesn't sound funny at all because a lot of times the superintendent is right down the hall in the very same building, right? And a lot of times they're teaching classes, they're driving buses, they're very approachable. So making friends with your superintendent does make sense to people in certain school districts, and honestly, even in some big school districts where the superintendent makes a point of being super approachable and superhuman. So when I say make friends with these people, I want to be very clear. Don't make friends by standing around their office and being a pest and telling them long-winded stories that they don't honestly care about, but they have to be polite and listen like they do care. They are busy. They are under pressure. They're under the gun. They've got stuff to do. It's okay to say hi to them. It's okay to visit, especially if they indicate that they want to talk to you, but don't be a pest in the office. That's dumb and does not bode well for your future because what you're advertising is that you don't have enough to do, right? So don't be annoying. They're busy. Let them do their job, but do look for opportunities to greet, to build relationships, and also to let them know that you're interested in a future in some sort of leadership role and that you would like opportunities to basically sharpen your teeth, to get your legs under you and to find ways to develop leadership, I guess, experiences and opportunities. So ask them for opportunities to volunteer and get some leadership type experiences. Now, I'm not trying to trick you into giving your school district free labor. I'm telling you that that's a good thing for you and for the future of your career if you'll do that. Now, don't be like, a kiss up and, like I said, don't be annoying, but look for opportunities to learn how to be a leader by leading. I have a really good friend, and he talks about how he has always said yes to every opportunity that has come his way, and that has resulted in him being given all sorts of responsibilities on the finance side, on the human resources side, on all sorts of different, there's a lot of different angles to the education career, right? And he's picked up so much knowledge because he said yes, and he said yes, and he said yes. And basically, in his view, that is God opening doors for him so that he can prepare himself for whatever God has for him in the future, right? And so I would say for you, for your career, if you're an aspiring leader, look for opportunities to be asked to do things where you can say yes and learn by doing, equipping yourself, growing yourself into whatever position may be out there for you in the future. Now, we often hear that no good deed goes unpunished, that if you're good at your job, they're just going to keep piling more and more stuff on you. And I can tell you, as a former superintendent, as a former principal, that's absolutely true. I've got more tasks than I can do by myself. So part of the job is delegating and looking for people to help get all of these things done, right? Who do you delegate to? The people that you think will get the job done and done well. So yeah, it's true. Leaders do task the capable and the trustworthy and the non-whiners with more and more work because they get things done and they get things done right. So when you're asked to do something more, ask yourself, what does this mean in terms of how they perceive me? And you don't just have to wait until they ask you. You can advertise your willingness to your campus leader, to your district leader, and they won't forget that because not many people do that. Not many people want additional, tasks given to them. So what is it? What does it mean as far as their perception of you if they're asking you to take on extra duties? It means one of two things. It means they see you as talented and skilled and trustworthy, or it means they think you're a sucker. Or I guess it could mean both, right? But if it's usually the first one, right? In my experience, anyway, it's usually the first one. They think you can get the job done because it's got to be done. Somebody's got to do it. So don't wait till you've finished your master's. Don't wait till you've made some sort of official declaration that you want to move into administration. Just start looking for those leadership opportunities now, and get some of those administration type activities under your belt. Volunteer to be the administrator on duty at volleyball games or soccer games. I promise you, there are lots and lots of extracurricular activities, at least in Texas, where sports is a big part, and one act play, not just sports, band competitions. Volunteer to go and represent the campus leadership at some of those events. Because there's so many of those events that your principal and your assistant principals, they get tired of not being able to go home and be with their family more often, and you could definitely step in and help there, and that's something you could put on your resume, but it's also something they'll remember that you were willing to do. And not only that, you can also help with different kinds of meetings. There are LPAC meetings, there are ARD meetings, there are PTA meetings, PTO meetings, those sorts of things, and you can definitely advertise to your campus leadership that you're willing to help out. You're willing to go get trainings like LPAC trainings that you have to be the LPAC administrator, things like that, right? So make yourself valuable by going above and beyond and rise into leadership before you have any title, before you've even made it official that you want to go into leadership. And if you do it right, people will be asking you to go into leadership. Schools need, campuses and districts both, they need leaders in waiting, and that unofficial role, that general recognition among kind of the current leadership that, hey, this guy's an up and comer, this lady's an up and comer, that doesn't happen because people politic for it, because they think they deserve it, because they feel they're entitled to it. That doesn't happen to people who just like advertise their want. I want to be a leader. That is not how you kind of prime the pump for your own leadership future in education, the way you prime the pump is by making it obvious that you get stuff done, that you make things better, that you have those leadership capabilities, that you are already leading, right? That you're building positive relationships, that you're the kind of coworker that people always know that they can count on. So let the 26-27 school year be the year that you move from thinking about educational leadership and you start making concrete moves. It's okay to be an aspiring leader, but do more than aspire, right? Start leading now. The main skill sets you'll need when you get into that principal's office, when you get into that AP office, when you get into that superintendent office, I'm going to tell you right now, all of the main skill sets you need are people skills. That's more important than anything else. I know when you think of superintendent, you're thinking, oh, you got to balance budgets, you got to build budgets, you got to know all these numbers, and you got to know technology and special ed, and you've got to know textbooks and buses and transportation and all the rules, personnel, insurance, all this complicated stuff. And yeah, I mean, you got to pick that stuff up, and you've got specialists that you can lean on as well. But the job comes down to people. Education is a people business. So, for example, you need to know how to referee conflicts between human beings. Well, you're a teacher in a classroom, your students are going to have conflicts. If you can referee conflicts between students, you can probably learn to referee conflicts between adults. I promise you, that's a big part of a leadership job. You also have to know how not to be a pushover, because I promise you, there are going to be people who are your subordinates that want to manipulate you or dictate to you or threaten you or coerce you into doing things their way instead of your way. They want you to have the title of leadership, but they want you to implement their actual leadership decisions, right? You're going to have to deal with people like that. You can't be a pushover. At the same time, you can't be a jerk. You have to be kind, and you have to understand there are a lot of different personalities that you're going to be working with, and you have to try and get along with as many of them as you can. You have to have the proverbial I'm going to butcher this one too, but you have to have like a concrete fist inside of a velvet glove, right? You got to be soft and kind, but as Teddy Roosevelt said, you got to carry a big stick, and try not to use it any more than you have to. You have to know how to make a decision based on the merits and not based on who's lobbying, who knows who's going to get their feelings hurt, who's going to get mad. You have to learn to navigate through all of those human things to get to the right answer, because you have to make the right decisions if you want your campus or your district to succeed. And you absolutely have to succeed if you're going to be a leader. You absolutely have to show gains in the student learning data, in the financial data, in the attendance data, in the morale, in the public perception of your campus or your district. Those are non-negotiables. You have to do that while also, kind of being fun to be around. So you have to have solid judgment, and you have to have people skills. Start developing those consciously. But some of you will really, really, really love it. So go for it. We need good campus and district leaders, and you could be the best there ever was. So go for it. Thanks for watching today. I hope you have a great 26-27. Class dismissed.